So, Devin, you mentioned that you are superintendent, and
Yeah.
tell us a little bit your journey. How do you get to that stage of like having so much influence and like responsibility for so many schools? Like, what was your journey? Because
Sure.
like you've been busy all the last from the age of 24, you've been very busy. So maybe
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your background so people have the idea about like how did you get to where you are now,
Yeah.
maybe. Your
I'd be happy to answer that. First thing I want to say is in over 20 years of being in the field, like everyone is busy. I work with custodians and front office staff, support assistants, teachers, consultants. Like, that word busy comes up a lot, and it's, being in education where, you're raising children with families. So it's a big responsibility. So everyone feels that pressure sometimes, I think, and feels really busy. So that's why, as a leader, I think it's important to, focus on what's important. So that's what, why I talked about the 3 I's for us in the Beaufort Delta. And that's the priority for us, indigenizing our practice, ensuring that we have land-based and place-based learning happening, as well as indigenized, and education as an overall philosophy too, but then connecting it to the 3 I's, so inclusive schooling and of course inquiry, which we're speaking about today, right? So, but yeah, everyone cares so much. I mean, that's one of the great things about being in education. It's the passion that you feel that when we talk about community of learners, people that are passionate about the students that they serve and the families that they're trying to help and support along their journey. And we have children from the age of 4 in our system, JK, all the way up to grade 12. So it's a long time. And you can do a lot in that time. And, with a systematic approach that we're trying to develop here, really in a lot of ways, 2 years in our journey right now of a strategic plan and a long-term plan that we have, you can do a lot in that time frame if you stick with inquiry and the practices that you have, right? So we're really excited about that. But I started my career in Nova Scotia as an educator, many years ago when I was 24. And my little one wants to say hi, so why don't you say hi? You want to say
hello.
hi? Speaking of responsibilities and little ones, I'm on daddy duty here today too, not just superintendent today. Yeah. Yeah, she wants some milk, so I'm going to pour her some milk while we talk about my career. And I love how authentic and messy this is today because I'm not in my office, and I wanted to show you, it's really about balance in life, right? So I was like happy to have Emmy join us today, and the other two are over at a colleague's house, which is great. But I'm going to pour her some milk and tell you a little bit about my career. So I started when I was 24 in Nova Scotia. Really excited about education. I came from a bit of a business background. I was heavily involved in the music industry in Nova Scotia for a while. I worked for some production companies. I actually was involved in running my own production company for a number of years. And during that time as well, I also got experience working for Molson Canadian, actually, a beer company of all things,
Oh,
learning about marketing and business. And you're young in life, you're curious, and you explore different topics. And I learned quickly for at least that point in time in the business world that I honestly didn't really like it that much. I liked the people I worked with, like I had good colleagues. I liked the events that we did. I still love music. I have a little DJ turntable set up in here, and I occasionally will go online and still DJ a little bit from time to time with some of my friends and colleagues. Going to do a 90s night later
clear.
in April. Yeah, yeah. So I'll promote that a little bit on my page. Kind of funny, talk about passions and talents. So that never left me, but I haven't focused on it as much, obviously, over the last, say, 15, 20 years. But when I was younger, yeah, like I was heavily involved in business, just trying to find my way in life and, pay some bills as well. Education's expensive for me anyway. I had student loans and did not have a lot of savings when it came to going to post-secondary. So I always had to work when I was studying my undergrad or my BED at the time, right? So I was always kind of doing some side jobs, or I guess the cool kids these days call them side hustles. I just called them jobs at the time. I'm dating myself because I'm 45. But yeah, so, I got into education, and that was always the dream, was to become a teacher. So even at these music events or working at Molson, and people ask me, what are you doing? What's your vision in life? Or, where are you going on your journey? It was, I want to be a teacher. I always wanted to be a teacher, even though when I was younger, I always was involved with youth at summer camps or Boy Scouts. I was heavily involved in Scouts Canada when I was younger.
Mm.
So yeah, I got my BED from the University of Maine at Presque Isle after graduating from Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia. And then, yeah, got into teaching, and I did what most people do. I subbed for a little while and then got offered a term contract. And at the time, the labor market was quite different. Right now, as an employer, as a superintendent, the teaching labor market is quite open. So there are a lot of options for employees, which I think is great for educators and teachers. I think it's great that they have choice. Talk about voice and choice and inquiry. They have lots of choice in the labor market, over, at least in Canada anyway, and from what I've read in other parts of the world too. But at the time in Nova Scotia, there weren't really a lot of jobs. So it was very competitive. There was a thing called, like, it was like basically like a job market, job fair that you had to go to even get a job. And so I had 3 contracts in a row, but I never knew what school I was going to be at, the following year. There's a lot of things up in the air. So I was starting to get a little frustrated, not frustrated with teaching so much, but more the system and how, how we got jobs and how we were treated a little bit from the system's point of view. I liked my principals. I liked the schools I worked at, all that. And during that time, I should really mention, I got the pleasure from the time of my practicum till a few years in, I got to work with the same group of students from grade 7 to grade 12, other than 1 year in between. So that, that was pretty neat. The high schools were larger there. So, I didn't teach every single kid I had in my homeroom from grade 7, but I was in the school, I connected with them. And so that particular cohort of students I've become incredibly close with. I still talk to them. I sent a message over Messenger to one of them, like, yesterday, and I'm 45, so they're well into their 30s themselves and in their 20s, that kind of thing, and they have kids and things like that, which blows my mind. But yeah, so working with that group was really, really incredible, and I had other groups I was really fond of too. But just it's really nice when you can consistently stay at a school or a community and get to know the kids so well, because you can really delve into topics deeply, right? So that was the beginning of my career, and then I kind of decided to expand my credentials a bit, and I moved to Quebec City, actually. And I worked in the private field. I went back into business a little bit, but did tutoring, like English tutoring. So I was an English language teacher on the side. And I also worked at one of the CEGEPs in Quebec City as well, CEGEP de Saint-Foy. A great experience, again, teaching English and working in the English department. And I also got to coach basketball while I was there, another passion of mine. So basketball is a huge thing for me growing up, same as music. And so I got to pursue basketball there as well, and coached basketball both in Nova Scotia and then in Quebec City. So I always found that was another way to tap into students when you think about their passions and sharing your own and things that you're excited about. I was always excited about learning, social studies, French, English, whatever subjects I was teaching. I always enjoyed being with students. And I think that rubbed off on them. And then also having those side interests, or what I call passions, I guess, now when we look at our community of learners here in the Beaufort Delta, I was always able to connect and be authentic around things I really loved and cared about. And I think we're trying to do more of that now. I want to connect it to present day, where we're really trying to get the learners to talk more about the things they love in the classroom. Yeah.